going out there on YouTube land? Dan here from Geekcast Radio, doing another Marvel Fresh Start review. I've been going through a lot of the Marvel Fresh Start books, giving my thoughts and opinions on them. Some I've stayed with longer than others because I felt like at a point I didn't really have anything new to say. But one book I feel like I always have something new to say or feel like is worth talking about is Venom. So I'm going to continue my look as I talk about Venom number 5. And this has been a hugely successful book for Marvel, sales-wise, and I think even attention-wise. I feel like of all the Fresh Start books, this and maybe Spider-Man have gotten at least the most positive buzz about them. Makes a lot of sense. Donny Cates has been killing it recently, from Thanos to Baby Teeth, the Redneck, and his Marvel titles have just kind of continued from there. And I had some criticism of this book. One of my biggest issues with it, and issues is a strong word, is that I still felt like I needed to know more about the character of Eddie Brock. The first issue I thought did a good job of giving you an idea of where it could be headed, letting us know why this Eddie Brock was so broken, and I was surprised by the fourth issue. The third issue, we didn't really get more of that. And I have to say that was kind of solved in this issue. So that criticism I had, I'm not going to say it was wrong, but I at least could understand more so now looking at here why we weren't really getting more into what exactly was going on with Eddie Brock. And I got to say, this has just been fantastic. Ryan Stegman and Donny Cates have been killing it on this book. It deserves to me all the hype or whatever you want to call it. It just feels big, bold, fun, exciting, and I feel like you don't go a page, like more than a couple pages without a big moment happening. And I don't know if I'm going to necessarily spoil anything, but I'll show some pages of those moments. And one standout moment was this, of course. We're getting the flying Venom, which sounds like, all honesty, like the worst of the 90s coming back to haunt us, right? Where this is where I think sometimes concepts, like people dismiss things based upon concept alone, where that sounds dumb, that doesn't work, that sounds like something that didn't work way back when. But sometimes it's all about execution to me. Like, that's why I don't try to dismiss anything just based upon premise. Even if it's doing the Clone Saga again, if it can be done right, it can actually maybe work. In this case, like this insanity, this over-the-topness, it works because I think it's self-aware, it's interesting, it's even though it's original and there's a point behind it. And also because Ryan Stegman is killing it on the art. Like, it is fantastic. And I think one of Donny Cates' biggest strengths is that he leans on his artists in a good way, where he gives them room to kind of show what they have. And every issue with this, I feel like Ryan Stegman has been stepping up his game. It's fantastic. There doesn't seem like there's ever an inch on the page ever wasted. It also ends up being a really quick read in a way where I fly through this book both because I'm enjoying it, but also because it is a really quick beat by bit, really great pacing where, like I said, it never really wastes a moment. I will say that the one thing that I'm waiting for, because this is working really well right now, and again, this is not really a critique, but just thinking of like what could possibly happen, is that it hasn't slowed down. Like, it's been going full bore from the beginning, and even in this we get a major reveal, and it's a reveal that I didn't even think even was possible, or it was a great surprise that made a lot of sense, that answered a lot of questions, gave a lot of answers to questions I didn't even know existed, which is, I think, one of Donny Cates' biggest strengths is doing that, where it's like he sets up a concept, a premise, and you're like, okay, well, I'll go with this, and then he reverts it, and you're like, well, I didn't even think about asking that question, and I'm getting an answer. It's really remarkable in his way to do that. And so it's just been really cool seeing this kind of evolution of this character of Venom, and learning more in the connection between it and Eddie Brock. And I love this idea that we have basically this civil war going on between Null, this leader of the person who created the symbiotes, and the symbiotes themselves. And a big reason why it existed is because it's just this Venom symbiote, it doesn't want to give up its connection to humanity, and there's something about it that it makes it better in a way. Like we see this, the reason why Venom can fly is kind of like he ends up being this in between, having his connection to Null that he didn't have before. So he has more powers, but at the same time he's still able to maintain that connection with Eddie Brock. So he's not necessarily just kind of doing what Null tells him to do. And I don't know if there's any aspect of that beyond just the obvious, if there's any sort of thematic meaning behind it. This idea of like finding in between the person that necessarily created you and you're tied to humanity. I don't know, but at least it's there, and I think that's something that maybe differentiates this from other classic like 90s stories that were about the big and the bold and where they're a little bit more empty. There's some room here to kind of look in between those cracks to see is it saying anything else? Like what would be the motivating factor for this symbiote to want to stay with Eddie Brock? And the fact that it does have this appeal to humanity in a way that's not just, in the fact that like it feels more complete being part of Eddie, and something I think it could probably delve in more as issues go on. And I just find that interesting that we're getting a lot of these big and bold questions about learning where Nowhere came from, revamping the entire origin. But to me, some of those smaller questions can also work and be interesting. But like I said, my only thought would be, if this slows down, like can this continue this pace? Because Donny Cates has done a great job of like keeping this huge stories, making everything fun and exciting, and going for that for 6 to 12 issues. If you go to 18 to 20, like eventually, long running stories, they're marathons, not sprints. Sometimes you have to kind of take a step back and go a little bit slower. I've seen him do that with something like Baby Teeth for sure. I'm just wondering, how effective that would be with this issue. And I know we're getting a lot of spin-off comics with this, which he's not necessarily writing, but maybe doing, at least help shaping, which can also help kind of build this. We're getting more of that Vietnam aspect of it, where we had all those symbiotes, and I'm interested in seeing that. But if you're a person like myself, like I didn't really care that much about Venom. I liked him when he showed up in When Spider-Man here and there, but I never really continued on a solo series by Venom. I know there's a lot of people who love like the Lethal Protector stuff in the 90s. Never really kind of was something I gravitated towards. This I just find this fascinating. And I'll say this, like Donny Cates is one of those where I pick up a book and I have legitimately no idea where he'll take it. Like we could be dealing with kind of the street level New York City Venom taking on Miles Morales, or we could be dealing with legitimately the creation of the universe. The scope of the story is pretty remarkable, and for not to be a gigantic mess is rather impressive. So pick up Venom, read it. You'll do yourself a favor. Even if you've never read a Venom book before, you get started issue 1 and continue on. Or I know the trades are coming out, I think next month or the month after, for kind of a lot of the Fresh Start books, the first volumes, and that's going to be a great jumping on point. Are the ones I would advise picking up. If you see my Fresh Start book where I go through all the Fresh Start titles and rank them, this was number 2 for me. Number 1 was Incredible Hulk. So those are the two, or Immortal Hulk, the books that I feel like have been the strongest out of all the Fresh Start books so far. So, all right. Well, that's it for me. Just remember that comics are for everyone. The key is finding the right one. Until next time, thanks for watching.